Well, hello there. Hey, you. I've got a special treat for you today. I'm working out of the Spooky Academy, which is a fairly new book to me by Shelley Couvillon, and I want to add in a stone wall to this page. So I got out my Whirly You Can Do This coloring book to learn how to do it, and I'm going to do it here with you. Now, if you've got this book that you can color this, we're going to do the exercise first in the book. You can pull it out, or you can also just get out a piece of paper. So first, what you're going to need are 3 gray markers, and I'm using alcohol markers. You're going to need a light, a medium, and a dark. And I'm going to my Copics, and I think I'm using my W series, which is a warm gray. And you're going to need a pencil because we have to draw these rocks in because they aren't already on the coloring page. So I'm going to do this in real time here. We're not going to speed it up so we can do it together. So if you need to pause to gather your materials, go ahead now. But either pull out this book or just a piece of paper and draw yourself a square. Then inside this square, let's make these irregular rocks with a little space in between them. And I am really using their example as a template because drawing irregularly is hard. We naturally want to make things symmetrical and straight. So I'm trying to draw things regularly to make them look natural, but not cut out to be next to each other. I do notice pretty quickly that I leave more space in between my stones than the example, but this is my first try, so I'm just learning. Smaller space between will make it look more like a wall. Bigger space makes it look more like a stone path, maybe. But you can use this. Look what we did. Okay, that's the book's version, and there's our version. Okay, once you have that, next you need to get your lightest gray because we're going to go to step number 2. Now the lightest gray I'm using here is a Copic again, and it's a W2. So we're going to color the entire thing, the entire page, and I'm going to I start out with the brush, but I'm going to use the chisel tip because that covers fast. So as I was saying, you can use this to draw a stone wall or a path or cobblestones, anything where a castle wall, turrets, anything where you want stones kind of next to each other. And you can put the stones closer or further apart. You could use this for possibly even stones on water. Just change what you put in between them. And see how well, I forgot to put a backing paper, so I quickly put some paper in between there. But so I will have a little bit of a line, but that's okay. And I think I flipped that paper over because that paper's got some pen on it that's showing through. But the chisel, you can see before I stopped, the chisel allows you to color without any streaks at all, which is why I love having markers with a chisel on one end and a brush on the other. All right, so we got that warm gray in. It's looking pretty much like the other one. So we want to let that dry, which I do. And next we're going to skip to the darkest gray. So get your darkest gray of the 3 grays. And for me, that's W7. And we're going to do the cracks in between the stones. So that's supposed to look like mortar. I guess if you used brown, you could make it look like mud, like a path if you wanted to make a path. Whatever, it's going to change what this is, whatever colors you're using. And you can use any colors, but I'm just starting with what they're showing me so that I can learn exactly how they're doing it, and then we'll see how we do it on the page. So I'm using the brush end of my Copics with a nice juicy W7 pen, and I'm putting in all of the mud work that's in between the stones. Now, I just used a regular lead pencil because I knew I was going to be putting in this dark brown and it would cover it. If you were using lighter, paler colors, the pencil can show through, so you might want to use a colored pencil or a specific pencil. For drawing, they're usually like red or blue that blends in better. But I knew this dark brown would mask it. So this is not bad. It doesn't look like a stone wall to me yet, but we're trusting the process. So if you need to pause me or slow me down, you can slow me down on the speed on the video, and you can also just pause and do this and then go to the end. Jack is being very noisy in the background because of course he is. So there we've got the darkest gray filled in. That's what the books look like, and ours looks pretty good. So now we want that medium gray. We're going to add texture to the stones, and this should be the number one thing that makes our drawing look like stone. The trick is, and I'm using W4, warm gray, we want our brush end or nib end if you don't have a brush, and we want to, it looks like darken one side a little bit, and then from that darker side, make really thick dots coming out of it. And then as we go in towards the lighter side of the rock, make them thinner and sparser and random. And be careful not to do too many. That's my issue. So not knowing where to put that dark side or the light side, I'm just basically following what's on the picture. I'm practicing like how to get the dots to look messy and not so dot-like. I'm using the side of my brush a little bit there. And then as I get out, I'm using the very, very tip of my brush to make it tiny, tiny, tiny. And just a couple out there. And at first I thought this doesn't look right, but wait. The alcohol marker will dry and then it looks fantastic. I just trust the process. So if you're following along with me, you're kind of getting one side a little, you're putting a line down one or two sides to make them darker, and then you're making the dots come from that line. And the dots nearest the line are thick and messy. And as they go out towards the lighter part of the rock, they get sparse and little. I was really nervous on this part. And actually, when we finish this part, that's all there is. I mean, and you'll see in my drawing, in the page that I'm doing in the school, what's it called, haunted school, I don't put the flowers in because that scene is an indoor scene and I didn't think there would be flowers in between the stones. It's just a stone wall. But here we're going to do the whole treatment. We're going to put the moss and the flowers in and everything just so we can learn how to do it. Yeah. I think my stones are getting better, and you can see the first three are drying and almost dry now, and they look good. I was starting to get excited, like these really do look like stones. The hardest part of this is to make those splotchy dots look random and natural and not like you drew them in. So take your time. A lot of you are used to putting dots on things, whether it's stars or bushes or grass or something, and making it look really random and natural. So try those techniques that you've learned. If you've never done it, here's your chance to practice. And I'm doing it in the book, but you can do this on any piece of paper, and you can do it over and over again until you feel comfortable with it. If you're doing this in a different book, like in one of the practice books for Walterville, or the other practice book for Cute and Cozy, I've already forgotten what it is, and you're using some of those images to practice this on, they usually have duplicates. If not, just draw your own. It's just a square and then draw in those stones. This would be great for pages that have that need like something around them. You know, a lot of us like draw a circle and then color in the circle, and we're like, good. But you could put a stone wall behind it in a circle, definitely. This could be fun for backgrounds in pages that kind of need a background or that are kind of sparse, and you want to just fill them in with something that looks natural. I have too much space between my stones. Mine more looks like a mud wall with stones sticking out of it, but that's something I learned, and so I did it better the second time when I did it in the coloring book. That's also why I don't do my first attempt in the coloring book. All right, there we are. So I think that looks a lot like what the page looks like. I think that's looking pretty good. So next, on this page at least, we're going to do the moss. And for this one, we need acrylic markers. So you're going to need a light green and then a dark green acrylic marker. And then whatever color acrylic marker you want your flowers to be. and a white gel pen for the very end. So I'm using these Lango acrylic the acrylic markers. These are like the first edition, and I don't really like them, so I just use them to use them up because they're very transparent. They take a lot of layers. So you start with the lightest green. Shake them up real good. Remember that if you need to pump it now. And from what I could tell on the drawing, it's just splotches of green that are touching two stones. At least two stones. Because think of how moss grows. Moss grows touching and grows in the middle in the cracks, but it's touching the stones. So make sure you overlap onto the stones. And I fixed that first one I did. I was thinking I would leave a hole where I would put the dark green, but then I realized this is acrylic, where acrylic covers everything. So again, be random. Be random with your shapes. Don't do too much, unless, of course, you have a really, really mossy wall. You could put any kind of flowers in here. I would just put this sort of mossy base first, and then you could draw in flowers if you wanted to, ferns, anything really that you wanted on your walls. Again, I'm just doing it the way the book is telling me to. I got kind of fancy with this one, and then I touched more than two stones, and I kind of liked it. It was something different. I'm using itty bitty circles to give it more of a natural edge. I thought maybe that would keep it more like the way moss grows if I just kept doing it in circles instead of lines. And I'm really liking it. It's starting to look a little 3D, isn't it? It would look better, again, if my stones were closer. But I learned something. And we'll do closer stones on the coloring book. All right, so we're finishing up your lightest green, and then you want to let that dry. We don't want our colors to blend into mush. And plus, most of the time we're not working on great paper, so you want it to dry before you put more on. And I will let this dry off screen. So again, I have to put a second coat. It would probably be better if I would have let the first coat dry, but I was impatient. So I'm kind of stretching the paper to what it can take. But I have to put a second coat on here. And just make it a real nice opaque green because, moss is really thick and opaque. It's not all one color, but we have to start somewhere. So we're starting with this light green base. And this is the part of of drawings that I need the most help with because I don't know what color to put down first. Would I put down the dark and then do the green around it? But no. So we've got our green moss, and we did it in circles, which was kind of nice, I think. And that's okay. All right. Now we're going to get green, the darkest green. We're going to let this dry. And then our dark green, we're going to come in, and we're going to put dots, but kind of thick dots that somewhat touch. So it's always scary starting, isn't it? So I'm just putting some juicy dots, and then some like that. So splotches of green that touch, and then separate dots. Again, the trick is to make it look as random as possible, which is hard. It's hard to deliberately put down color and make it look like it's random. Just get loose, breathe, let your marker just kind of bounce around, and don't think about it too much. That's my advice. It is still a very hard thing to do. I have to sort of disengage my brain because I want to do things symmetrically. And I won't really go over this because I'm afraid I'm going to make it really muddy. If I have a spot that I can easily go over without making it too much, because you also don't want too much of this green. You want to be able to see that light green through it. You want to make it look, kind of 3D-ish. And it doesn't yet. It really takes a little bit more to get to look 3D. But you let this dry before we go on to our next. And I chose kind of a dark violet pink for my flowers. But get whatever color you want for your flowers after it's dried. So you can pause me and let this dry, and we'll come back. I'm using this pink color. If you don't want to put flowers in it, and these are just tiny dots. That one came out too big. Little dots and not too many. Now, if you don't want to put flowers, you can put another color of green in there, like a light green or a medium green, and just put a few dots of green, different greens together, and that would help make it look 3D. I'm just doing what the book's telling me to do right now, and I'm putting these little dots of flowers using the very, very tip of my brush. And we're done. Okay, so let that dry. Pause me now, let that dry. And then we're going to come back in with a white gel pen, whatever your favorite white gel pen is. All right, mine's all dry. This is what it's looking like. And now we're doing some white dots just to add some, what they call highlights, but I think just more stuff. And I'm using my panda fly. I put that little trinket on there to make sure I can find it easy. I did figure out what was wrong with it. I was storing it with the nib up. Duh. That's newbie's error. It needs to be stored either flat or the nib down, because nib up, it just had a really hard time getting that thick, juicy white ink down to the nib. And I did write down my colors there for you that I use. Those are Copics, not Ohuhus. But again, the colors aren't that important. It's the shade, it's the tone and the shade of them. You need drastic contrast, light, mediums, and darks. And here, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm just putting in some white dots. And I think it's helping make the whole thing look more interesting. I would like to try this technique with different greens, lots of different greens, to see if I could make just green moss. And maybe even like some really dark greens. Maybe with some languid gel pens. Okay, now we let that dry. And that is all she wrote. So that's what the book looks like. And this is what ours looks like. I think it's pretty close, don't you? I think we did a pretty decent job. How does yours look? Yeah, look at that. I think that's not bad. You can tell that's supposed to be a stone wall. The only thing I would change is put my stones closer together. So I had a really good time with that. Yes, you put my stones closer together. So now I'm going to do it in the coloring book. So let's open our coloring book, and you can just watch, or if you have a coloring book you want to put a wall in. I first drew the stones in, and as you can see, I made a little mistake up there, but I know what I'm doing there, is I put them really close together, almost touching. That does look more like a wall. And so if you want to do this on a coloring page, first draw in your stones very lightly. Or you could pick a page that already has stones. There's a lot of them in those Cozy and Cute books. Get your lightest gray and go over the whole thing. I start with a brush here that I'm like, what am I doing? That's harder to keep the streaks out. You got to do it with the chisel. And just go over it and keep it nice and wet while you're doing this. So you'll see some streaks there, but then I go over it some more and just kind of keep it wet as I move along. Don't let it dry. This did use most of the ink that was left in this marker, but I do have refills, so I refilled it after this. If I had refilled it before, it would have been juicier, and I probably wouldn't be going over and over it like I am. So that's what you're going to do. You're just going to keep coloring. Yeah, I can tell that this one needed to be refilled. It is now. It's refilled now. But I thought, well, I've already started, so let's just make it work. And try to get it, it doesn't have to be even. I mean, we don't want streaks, but stones aren't evenly colored. So if you get some darker spots and some lighter spots, that's fine. Don't bother fixing it. Because the stones themselves are different colors. All right, here we go, and I finished it now off camera. So if you need to pause me while you finish yours, go ahead. And I let it dry completely. See, I haven't finished those ghosties there because I hadn't done the wall behind them yet. And I still have a spider there and some bats. I just went over those bats. I haven't done anything with them yet. I just went over them with the alcohol marker. And now our step is our darkest one. So get your darkest gray, and we're going to color in between all those rocks. It should be a little bit easier because they're closer together now, and I am going to use the very tip of my brush so I can get in there. You can do this technique with colored pencils. You can do this technique with water-based markers, paints, anything you want to use. You can adapt it. And that's what I'm going to start doing next after I get used to some of these techniques, is adapt them to other mediums, because I can't use alcohol markers in a lot of my books. So anyway, so that's what we're going to do. And I'm going to go off screen and I'm going to finish doing my dark gray in all the cracks and crannies and let it dry. And then I'll come back. So if you want to pause me while you do that on your page, then just start me back up again, and we'll go to the next stage, which is the medium grays and putting the texture in on the stone. I have to say, this step here is so fun. It's like putting in the black lines in the Disney color by numbers, right? It's just fun. It defines it. It starts bringing it to life. And I'm loving it. So I had a really fun time doing this entire page. It didn't take that long. It really didn't. I thought it would take a lot longer. It was, an hour, not long at all. So I'm definitely you're probably going to be seeing stone walls in a lot of my pages until we learn another technique. But we're starting with stone walls because I had this page and I thought it would be one of the easier techniques to learn. Excuse me. I was hoping so, at least. So again, doesn't have to be perfect. This is the mud between stones, and it's not going to be uniformly colored or shaded. In fact, the more kind of loose it is, although I do recommend having a page underneath that you can color right off the page, the more natural it looks, I think. And as you can see in real time, that only took me a few minutes to do that whole column. So I'm going to go off screen and finish the rest of it. And I'll be back with you. Yeah. That's a lot of fun. All right, I did it. It's all done. So it's dry now, and now we're going to go in with the medium gray. If you're wondering how I did my windows there, I used watercolors, but this paper didn't like what I was doing, and I wasn't probably doing it right. I had too much water or not enough water. I don't know. It came out splotchy, so then I took just some white pencil, I think, and just kind of went over this, made it more splotchy to make it look like sky. Called it good. So here's our medium brown we've got. And this was scary, so scary. So remember, we're doing one or two sides with the dark, and I thought I'd go away from the light, like away from the main focus, the main critters in there. And then we put our thicker areas, our thicker dots, and then we fade out to little tiny dots. I thought that looked okay, so I kept doing it. I wasn't quite sure if this is shadow or part of the rock, because I know the dots are part of the rocks. Is that line that we put in, is that shadow? Probably. So I decided to try to keep it on the same sides of the rocks, just in case it's shadow versus texture. I'm not sure still. But I think I'm getting a good random. I think I'm getting better at the randomness and not overdoing it. So the color of the rock still shows through. And you can see the bottom one that's drying. It looks pretty good. Looks kind of 3D, doesn't it? Again, I wouldn't worry about making any of this very perfect, because the imperfectness will add to the 3D look of these stones. Yeah. This isn't hard, is it? We can do this. I would love to see your pages too, of what you do, what you end up doing this technique with. Yeah, I like it. Again, it's looking like I could have put those stones even closer together, or maybe it's because the alcohol bled out a bit. But I'm going to do that to the rest of the page. And then that's where I'm going to stop, because I'm not going to put moss and flowers on it, because this is the inside of a castle. What do you guys think about this? Again, I think I made my lines too thick in the middle. Maybe I'll use a Language gel pen next time instead of an alcohol marker. But I like it. I think it works just fine. And I think it helps this page a lot. It was pretty sparse before. Without that, it was just white walls. And I did finish the ghost down there on the left-hand side. I put his white, the rest of him in there. I did finish the bats with just a little bit of gray. I don't know, pencil or something. No, it was alcohol marker, I think. And there it is. There's the finished page. So if you have done this technique, please let me see it. I would love to see it. And hopefully you had a good time. Hi there. So before I go, I wanted to show you that I was so excited about learning how to do these stones that I did them in another page. So this is Lonely Pumpkin's Christmas by Usiku, and it was untouched for me. And I'm planning on doing as many pages of this as I can this Christmas. And I did this page. And look at the stones in the chimney. Now these were already written in, drawn in. Usiku drew those stones, and so I just decided to do that same treatment. Isn't that cool? What do you think? I really, really like it. I'm so excited that we got to learn this together, and I can't wait to see where and how you use this technique yourself. Just remember, it's just 3 colors of gray, and I'm choosing warm gray because I think that works well, but any color gray. If you're outside, if you're doing an outdoor cobblestone thing, you might want to do more neutral grays or cool grays. Anyway. Thank you for joining me today. I had a lot of fun, especially just being able to get this skill under my belt and using it in a variety of situations. I'm so excited to keep using it. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.